You may recall that for roughly a decade, there was a bit of an ongoing joke surrounding Arsenal's repeated fourth place finishes, which seemed to continue for a few years, despite the fact that the Gunners hadn't actually finished fourth for a while. Between 2005-06 and 2013-14 though, Arsenal did finish fourth 6 times in only 9 seasons, which is some pretty impressive consistency. Since then, the North Londoners have finished 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 6th, 5th again, and 8th. And Mikel Arteta would bite your hand off if you offered him a spot in 4th this season. Subscriber Devam recently left a popular comment suggesting that I take a look back at the last time Arsenal actually finished 4th and where those players are now. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. The 11 featured are the 11 players who featured most frequently in their respective positions during the league campaign alone, because the less said about Arsenal's FA Cup win that season, the better in terms of my mental health. Here is the last Arsenal 11 to actually finish 4th. Where are they now? Wojciech Szczesny, Juventus. Wojciech Szczesny spent 11 years at Arsenal, but 3 of those were spent in the Gunners' academy and another 3 were spent out on loan. He enjoyed 4 seasons of regular football at the Emirates and 2 seasons in which he was the club's undisputed number 1. The 2013-14 campaign was one of those 2 seasons, as Szczesny started in all but one of Arsenal's Premier League outings. You may be surprised to discover that the Polish international actually won the Premier League Golden Glove that season, but it would also prove to be his penultimate campaign at the club. Following 2 seasons on loan at Roma, Szczesny joined Juventus for a potential €15 million in 2017. He has since become Juve's number 1, and he was named as Serie A best goalkeeper last season. Bacary Sagna, free agent / retired. I'm always keen not to retire players for them in these videos, so unless they've stated that they have retired as an absolute fact, I shall leave the door open. Having said that, Bacary Sagna is 38 years old, and he has been without a club since 2019, so it's definitely possible that his playing days are behind him. Capped 65 times by France, Sagna was part of a large French contingent that Arsene Wenger brought to North London. Once described by Wenger as the best right-back in the Premier League, Sagna joined Arsenal from Auxerre in 2007, and he spent the next 7 years at the club. That means that the Gunners' 4th place finish in 2013-14 was Sagna's final season with the club, and he subsequently joined Manchester City on a free transfer. Following 3 seasons at the Etihad, Sagna had brief stints with Benevento and Montreal Impact, the latter of which ended in 2019, and as mentioned, the 38-year-old has been unattached ever since. Per Mertesacker, Arsenal Academy manager. A 6'6" giant who was signed by Arsene Wenger in a desperate attempt to shore up the Gunners' backline following an 8-2 defeat to Manchester United in 2011, despite not being without his critics, Mertesacker largely did that during his time with the club. Though he wasn't the quickest, and that's probably the kindest way of putting it, the big man read the game well and was a calming presence within a sometimes rather chaotic back four. Mertesacker made a whopping 52 appearances in the 2013-14 campaign, including 35 in the league, and even chipped in with a few goals. Capped more than 100 times by Germany, the 2014 World Cup winning centre-back retired in 2018, having played very little football during the previous 2 seasons, and he has been the Arsenal Academy manager ever since, in addition to sporadic appearances as a pundit on German TV. Laurent Koscielny, Bordeaux. Per Mertesacker always played his best football when partnered alongside someone much more mobile, and he got that in Laurent Koscielny at Arsenal. The Frenchman was a fantastic servant to the club, spending 9 years at the Emirates, where he made more than 350 appearances, many as club captain. He somewhat soured his relationship with the club in pretty bizarre circumstances back in 2019, refusing to go on the club's pre-season tour and then seemingly taking a dig at the Gunners in his unveiling video at his new club Bordeaux. Koscielny has since apologised, and he still plays for Bordeaux, where the 35-year-old is club captain. Kieran Gibbs, West Bromwich Albion. I didn't realise quite how many games Kieran Gibbs played for Arsenal before making this video, but it turns out it was rather a lot. In my head, Gibbs was always a bit of a fringe figure at the Emirates, but he racked up 230 appearances for the club in total, which is more than the likes of Jack Wilshere, Sol Campbell and Ashley Cole. Though it must be said, a significant chunk of Gibbs' game time came outside of the Premier League. Having been with Arsenal since the age of 14, Gibbs left the Gunners in 2017, joining West Brom for £6.75 million. He's since made 95 appearances for the Baggies, but out of favour at this moment in time, the 31-year-old is currently being linked with the move to David Beckham's MLS franchise into Miami. Mathieu Flamini, environmental entrepreneur. Another man who is yet to officially confirm his retirement, 36-year-old former French international Mathieu Flamini, has his fingers in a couple of pies these days. A tireless box-to-box or holding midfielder in his prime, Flamini had 2 stints with Arsenal, either side of 5 years in Milan. The 2013-14 campaign was the midfielder's first season back at the club, and he was a fairly regular fixture in Arsene Wenger's side. Flamini left the Gunners for a second time in 2016, joining Crystal Palace, before enjoying 2 brief stints at Getafe. These days, Flamini is something of an entrepreneur, having co-founded a company called GF Biochemicals back in 2008. Flamini's business became the first to mass-produce levulinic acid in 2016, considered by some environmentalists to be a long-term alternative to oil and one of the world's key tools in the fight against climate change. That led some to suggest that the Frenchman is the wealthiest footballer or ex-footballer on earth, but those claims are a little far-fetched. GF Biochemicals are still in their infancy, so no, Flamini is not a billionaire. Or not yet at least. Mikel Arteta, Arsenal manager. This one won't come as a huge surprise to many Arsenal fans, but Mikel Arteta is the Gunners' current first-team boss. Offered his first senior management position by his former club, Arteta took over midway through last season, replacing Unai Emery. Having honed his managerial skills as Pep Guardiola's assistant at Man City, Arteta quickly appeared to have turned Arsenal's fortunes around, guiding the club to FA Cup glory last season. The start of this season was appalling, however, though Arteta managed to hang on to his job and Arsenal look to be rebuilding again now. Back in his playing days, Arteta spent 5 seasons at the Emirates, 3 as a regular, racking up exactly 150 appearances in total. Jack Wilshere, Bournemouth. Jack Wilshere and Aaron Ramsey played almost the exact same number of minutes in the Premier League for Arsenal in the 2013-14 season, so either one of them could have featured. Wilshere made more appearances, but Ramsey started more games. I used appearances as the deciding factor, so it is the Englishman who features. An Arsenal player from the age of 9, Wilshere looked like a generational talent during his teenage years, already starting to control games at both club and international level. Unfortunately, Wilshere's struggles are all too well known, and his injury nightmares have plagued him over the last 5 or 6 years. He officially left Arsenal in 2018 to sign for his boyhood club West Ham, but despite claiming that he was fit throughout much of his time with the Hammers, Wilshere barely got a look in. Following a few months without a club at all, Wilshere rejoined Bournemouth, where he previously enjoyed a successful loan spell, on a short-term deal at the start of this year. Tomasz Rosicky, Sparta Prague Director of Football. Another man who became very well acquainted with the physiotherapist at Arsenal, Tomasz Rosicky was an excellent footballer, but he was injured for close to half his 9 years at the Emirates. A full international for a whopping 16 years, Rosicky still managed to win more than 100 caps for the Czech Republic, despite his myriad of injury problems. The 2013-14 season was actually Rosicky's most injury-free campaign in North London, and he registered 39 appearances in all competitions. When he left Arsenal in 2016, Rosicky returned to his first club Sparta Prague, where he spent 2 seasons before hanging up his boots and accepting a position as the club's director of football. Santi Cazorla, Al Sadd. I don't want to get too bogged down in talk of injuries, it's a bit depressing, but it's impossible not to mention a long-term setback when talking about Santi Cazorla. In fairness, in the Spaniard's case, it's more a tale of a miraculous comeback than repeated crippling setbacks. Santi Cazorla was an inspired signing by Arsene Wenger, and he is among the club's best players of the post-Invincible era. For 3 seasons, he was an absolute class act, but in October of 2016, he suffered a nasty Achilles tendon injury during a Champions League tie against Ludogorets Razgrad. I seem to have told this story on this channel 1,000 times, but long story short, Cazorla underwent 8 unsuccessful operations before being told gangrene had set in and that he may even lose his leg. A skin graft was the surgeon's last-ditch attempt to heal the afflicted part, though it was still felt Cazorla would likely struggle to walk again, even if it went well. Though the Spaniard never played for Arsenal again, he most assuredly could walk, run, pass, tackle, and score goals again. He ended up back at Villarreal, where he had 2 truly fantastic seasons, and even broke back into the Spanish national team. Cazorla joined Qatari outfit Al Sadd, managed by his former international teammate Xavi, in 2020, where he has since scored 10 goals in 15 games. Olivier Giroud, Chelsea. The talisman up top for Arsenal 7 seasons ago, there wasn't a lot of competition for Olivier Giroud at centre-forward back in the 2013-14 campaign. Thankfully then, Giroud did a decent job of leading the Arsenal line, bagging 20-plus goals in all competitions. He only managed that feat twice across his 5.5 seasons in North London, and the criticism of Giroud was always that he didn't score enough goals to lead the line for a team with title aspirations. I suppose that has been disproven by Liverpool's title win with Roberto Firmino up front, along with the fact that Giroud played a pivotal role in France's 2018 World Cup win. Anyhow, Giroud left Arsenal in January 2018, joining London rivals Chelsea for a reported £18 million. The Frenchman's time at Stamford Bridge has been something of a mixed bag, though he's played some of his best football this season, and the 34-year-old has already hit double figures midway through the current campaign. So that is the 11 done and dusted, but a quick word for the rest of the Arsenal squad that season. Mesut Ozil obviously joined Fenerbahce just last month, bringing his own complicated relationship with Arsenal to an end, which I talked about in a video all of its own, should any of you be interested. Aaron Ramsey now plays for Juventus, Nacho Monreal is at Real Sociedad, Lucas Podolski plays for Antalyaspor in the Turkish Super League, Thomas Van Marlen is playing his club football in Japan with Vissel Kobe, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is now at Liverpool, Carl Jenkinson is contracted to Nottingham Forest, Theo Walcott is on loan from Everton back at his boyhood club Southampton, Nicholas Bentner now plays for Danish minnows Tarnby FF, and not their first team, but their veterans team, where he is apparently keeping fit with some old pals, Serge Gnabry, is ripping it up at Bayern Munich these days, and finally, the Arsenal legend that is Yaya Sanogo, a man who criminally doesn't yet have a statue outside the Emirates, alongside Ken Fryer, Dennis Bergkamp, Herbert Chapman, Tony Adams and Thierry Henry, it is surely only a matter of time. Sanogo is currently a free agent, aged 28, having been released by Ligue 1 side Toulouse back in July 2020. A quick word for Arsene Wenger, a man who has a bust inside the Emirates, but genuinely should have a statue outside the ground at some stage. He hasn't returned to management since leaving the Gunners, supposedly despite having several offers, and the 71-year-old Frenchman has been employed by FIFA as their head of global football development since 2019. So that is it for today's video, but I thank you sincerely as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for HITC7s. Oh, and you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram by the username @HITC7s on both, should you wish to do so.